Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is a paid request for Bronson. Thank you so much for that. For those interested, request in any type of videos, whether it be a topic, a tier list, a ranking, a review, a re-review, thought streams, commentaries, video game playthroughs, random, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or CashApp. Links are down below in the info box. I will get to as soon as I possibly can. And for those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. But this time it is Castaway from the year 2000, which is directed by Robert Zemeckis, who did Back to the Future trilogy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, among many others. Mostly stars Tom Hanks. I mean, you have other people like Helen Hunt in there, but Tom Hanks is fairly front and center. And this is a film that pretty much they started shooting, but then it got to a point where they had to wait for Tom Hanks his body to change, to show the before and after being on this island as a castaway. So in the middle of doing that, they go, which is pretty ballsy move for a studio to have that much trust in a director to stop a film for months like that. But while Tom Hanks was doing that, Robert Zemeckis and his crew, they made another movie called What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. And then funny enough, both films were big hits in the year 2000. So definitely a banner year for Robert Zemeckis. Now, I don't like What Lies Beneath. I actually find that film very boring. But I do quite like this film. I think this film would be in my top 5 Tom Hanks movies. My favorite is The Burbs, but I really do like this. I think it really does showcase a guy, what can he do to survive, and it makes you think on what you would do and what you'd be capable of and how would you react and how would you act the same or differently compared to Tom Hanks' character. And for a film it's a long film, but I had never felt the length of it. I think I was just honed in on Tom Hanks' performance, and I thought some of the sequences were very effective, among other stuff which I'll get to. Yeah, I know there's roosters and stuff in the background, just how it is being in the middle of nowhere with neighbors and their farms and stuff. One thing about this movie, well, two things. Number one, I had this film on DVD, but someone I kind of knew stole some of the DVDs, including the one for this one. So it took a while for me to finally get the Blu-ray of it. Again, this was years ago when I was in another part of Texas, and obviously never spoke to that person again, which, good riddance. See, they confirm it too, exactly. Thanks for the approval. But this is a film that I always thought was very effective. And it was great to watch this again. And thanks to Bronson for having me watch it again. And also, the trailer for this film is terrible. It is an awful trailer. Because what the trailer does is give away the entire movie. It gives away spoilers for a film that's, well, I guess now 25 years old, technically. A film that, he's at FedEx, the plane goes down, he gets on the island, him being on the island, starting fire, escaping, being back to civilization, talked with Helen Hunt and kissing Helen Hunt, and it shows the entire fucking film. You don't even need to watch the film. Just when you watch the trailer, it gives away the entire movie. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. It still made a lot of money. It still made, I think, over $200 million in the U.S. It was a fairly big hit, but my God, what an... I mean, maybe it wasn't as awful a trailer. People went to see it anyway, but I think it's a trailer that gives away the whole movie. I'll put it that way. Now, the beginning could feel like a big commercial for FedEx, like product placement, but I was able to overlook that with this just because it does become essential to the plot with the packages and, you know, the, 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 One of the packages being Wilson, and also the one package that kind of his lifeline, which I'll get to. So at least it's incorporated more into the plot, and it's a guy who just happens to be a FedEx, a guy that goes in for management of, hey, we gotta do better. This is the best way to do it time wise. We gotta do this, this, and this, and kind of teaching and doing speeches. And I like some of the direction that Zemeckis had, like the POV of the FedEx package, going from point A to point B to over here. I thought that was an interesting way to start the film. And then you see like Tom Hanks, how passionate he is about time, and always in a rush, always gotta be fast, fast, fast. Hey, I sent this package 87 hours. Wars have lived and died in 87 hours. Okay, this is unacceptable. About he's always in a rush and never stays still, to a point that him and Helen Hunt, his girlfriend, they love each other. They can't experience much of Christmas, but he's like, I'll be back on New Year's and we'll exchange presents in the car. And don't open this till New Year's. And you get the idea, it's going to be an engagement ring. He gets on the plane, and it's a very intense sequence. Very intense sequence of the crash, because you see the physicality, the characters bouncing up and sloshing around and hanging on for dear life. And I think the special effects and the practicality still worked fairly well 25 years later, especially when again things are air is blowing around, he's hanging on for dear life, and someone's hurt, and this stuff's like ready to break through this net, and you wonder if it's going to crush anybody, and then the water cascades in. And then even the rest of the crash where he's underwater, but he's hooked on to something and caught, but he's got to do this thing so he can be pulled up. And then you have this plane engine on fire and trying to get away. And you see like the explosion, the raft goes like and pushing forward. I mean, for 25 years ago, the effects are still pretty decent, in my opinion. It definitely gives a very intense feeling of the whole crash sequence. And then when he gets on this island, it's like, okay, what do? And you go through the steps. He yells for help, it doesn't work. He tries to put help in the sand, the water takes it away. He tries to do with sticks, it doesn't work either. He searches around to see what's all around, and it's really not that big of a mass of play. It's like there's a cliff, and you look over, and there's no wildlife on the island. There's not a whole lot to eat except coconuts. How do you open a coconut? Which is a lot tougher than you think. And there's some fun stuff, like him trying to open up the coconut and throwing it bounces back, and he's trying to open it and it breaks open, and you gotta find it. Okay, I gotta do it a different way. Have like a little screw thing so I could drink from it. Oh, I could catch maybe some seafood. How do I do that? Oh, start fire. How do I do that? And sort of the issues that happens, whether he going through he's at one point he tries to leave, the waves bring him back, so there's no way he could get further. He gets his leg caught and hurt. Or he's trying to do something, he fucks up his hand. By this point he's opened up packages, and it's like, okay, well, I have to use his dress as a net. I have to use these ice skates to open up stuff and cut stuff. And there's of course a volleyball, where after bleeding he throws it out of anger, gets it, and realizes it kind of makes a face, so he makes the rest of a face and becomes his buddy Wilson. And it does take a bit of effort, both with the director as well as Tom Hanks, to make you think that this volleyball is a being. Thankfully, they didn't do something stupid like putting a voice to Wilson. Because I just see like someone who doesn't know what they're doing, like have Wilson talk, but it's in his mind, so he imagines the volleyball's talking to him. No, like you just needed Tom Hanks looked in and you get the idea he hears a conversation, but we just hear his answer. That was what we needed. That was effective, and you see how with his psychology, in order to find some type of companion, some type of dialogue. I'm sure also the studio was probably is he really going to be like silent for the whole film, or is he just going to be like talking to himself? So I guess they gave him a reason to have some talk. It's really something, and that's Wilson. There's some brutal moments, the whole dentist thing where he's got to break his tooth. I always cringe at that because I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I guess push comes to solve and you're desperate. I got nothing to lose. Just. But just the way it does that and the blood spurt and just you really feel the impact and man, I cringe each time I see that. Jesus. And we see it's been like 4 years, and we see how his hair, his body, everything has changed. He's definitely much more effective in what to do and not to do. He has a whole routine, spearing fish, much more confident making fire, much more talkative to Wilson. There's even a bit where he gets in a fit of rage and throws him. Is oh Wilson, where are you? Oh, never again, never again. Which comes off it could come off as silly and goofy, but by this point we realized of just how his psychology is broken down to there's something he depends on to keep him as sane as can be. I also like the idea that when he finds this kind of porta potty thing come by, wash ashore, and can use that maybe for a boat to get through the waves, he needs more rope, and there's a place to get it, and you find out that during those 4 years, he thought of ending his life. So he used a test, but it broke, so it would have he would have just been on the rocks, broken leg and all, painful as hell. So changed that idea. But he explains it later on, which I don't know if you needed him to explain it later on, because I think you could get the idea earlier, not just from the reveal of this rope was a noose, but also little bits he talks with Wilson. But him mentioning it's not bad or anything. And the store, I want to mention the store by Alan Silvestri because it's a very minimal store. I mean, there's probably less than 10 minutes of music in this movie in terms of if you listen to the score, there's not really a soundtrack. It'd just be one piece of music. Because there's really no music up until there's a few bits. Like when he's able to get off the island, he's able to get through the storm, taking Wilson with him, and the piece of wood that's on falls off and he desperately tries to reach for it. And it does show, at least for me, just how commendable the director and the actor is, where Tom Hanks' performance, committed, genuine, Zemeckis playing it all out on the water, and then Alan Silvestri's score, which I think is a beautiful piece of music. Like, no lie, for the past couple of days, when I'm doing something, I'll put that piece of music up to just listen to it. And I think it's a beautiful piece. It's one of my favorite and more underrated pieces of music Alan Silvestri has done. I'll probably listen to it after I get done with these reviews I have today, because it really hits the right emotional spots and moments. And that's been that movie magic. Just at this day, he's crying out for a fucking volleyball, but yet we've seen how it's meant to him psychological wise. We've seen how it's meant to him as a character. We can understand his point of view of what he's been through and at this point still going through. And again, to repeat, beautiful theme, beautiful music. Tom Hanks, very solid performance. Great job in this. And you buy into it. He's able to arrest you, then there's him adjusting to life, adjusting to being there. I like the idea, the scene when you see him in a bedroom and he's on the floor, which I've heard that is the thing that happens, that people that just not when they're just not used to a bed. The bed is such a strange feeling, an alien feeling, to be up away from the floor, that they're not used to it, so they're more comfortable being on the floor. It's like something they have to kind of get their way out of their head to finally start to use a bed. Same with the flicking of the lights, because on the island, you have the same with the flashlight, because he has his pocket watch that was given to him by Helen Hunt. That's Helen's picture in it. And Helen Hunt, I mean, she's not in it a lot. She's at the beginning, at the end. She still does a solid job, because I've always been a fan of Helen Hunt. I liked her in Twister. I liked her in As Good as It Gets. Sadly, you don't really hear about Helen Hunt anymore. I know she did some supernatural film years ago. I don't remember what it was called. But yeah, you just never hear about Helen Hunt. But I always thought she did a really good job in movies. And she was very likable and easygoing in this. I do like Tom Hanks' speech, talking to his buddy about his thoughts on when he was on the island, and I liked his line, "I know what I have to do now. Keep breathing." And again, the hands of a lesser actor that come off as cringy or stupid, but he sells that line. Like, he sells the emotion of this guy who was at wit's end, was close to ending his life because he thought, I would never get off the island, but with certain things that happened and certain thoughts, he was able to overcome that, and lo and behold, he's here today. The scene with Helen Hunt where she was in love with him and they kiss, and she's actually given serious thought to leaving her family, so I don't know. Some could argue easily, I don't know about her as a person or as a family, a mom. Like, you don't, because she has a kid as well. Like, you don't easily abandon your kid like that. And it's Tom Hanks that says, "I'm going to take you home," and then during the rain takes her to the garage. So she seemed adamant for a moment. I'm like, man, that'd be funny if somehow the daughter found out years later, "You're ready to abandon me in a minute." But I mean, the way it's played off, it was played off maybe not as hostile as I make it sound like. But it's just one of those thoughts that enter my brain. And then Tom is able to deliver that package that he didn't open. The reason he didn't open was because it had these wings on it, which he liked the look of it, but also purpose, hope and purpose, where if as long as I don't open this package, that means Maybe one day I'll get off of this damn island and deliver it where it needs to go. And there's always the joke of, what if there was like a GPS, satellite phone and shit on there. They even did a FedEx commercial where it's not Tom Hanks, but they have a guy playing the type of his character. What was in that package? Oh, it was a satellite phone, and it was a lighter, and all this other stuff. But no, we never find out what's in the package. I think the director or someone jokes, oh yeah, it was a satellite phone or something, but anyway. More likely it was art, because I think we see her at the beginning sending the package, and she's like an artist or something. Which we also find out that her husband cheated on her. And then, yes, I know it's on the nose at the final bit. It is literally a crossroads, as Tom Hanks' character is at a crossroads. So, but literally at a crossroads. So I know that's a bit on the nose. But I like the look of it. I like just how empty and desolate he is in the middle of nowhere. And you really do get this sense of choice of where's he going to go. And then this lady stops by and gives him directions. Then he realizes as she's driving away, she's the person who had the package. She's the one with the wings. And maybe in a way this was fate or something. Granted, I don't know what that says about the people that died in the plane crash that, well, thank God we're part of your fate and we had to die for it. I mean, that's not Tom Hanks' fault, but the whole idea is you keep breathing because you don't know what will happen tomorrow, which I fully commit to that sentiment. The sun will rise another day, and you don't know what will bring with it. So, which again, I fully commit to that. And then you get the idea that maybe he'll go back to see this girl, and maybe something will work out, but it's not 100%. But you can make that idea, you can make that leap, and I don't think I think it would be justified to take that leap. And then you have that store pop up again. It's just a very well-made film. The look of the movie, shots of Tom looking at the sunrise or the sunset, more like the sun setting, the look of the island, the scenes on the water. Once in a while there's CG, but it's mostly practical. Maybe like during the big storm, big CG. Tom Hanks, great actor, whether it be in Forrest Gump or Apollo 13 or this one. Very committed to the role, obviously, and changing his look and body. Because he definitely seemed a bit heavier at the beginning and definitely a bit thinner by the end. Again, the running time never bothered me. No, I didn't really have a whole lot of issues. I'm kind of glad that they didn't try to put in, like, he happens to find another person on the island, or there's pirates, or just this movie didn't need any of that stuff. Well, pirates, you have to wait for Captain Phillips for that. But again, the simplicity of it all kind of was appealing. And it does make you think, makes you wonder, how would you do in the same situation? Yeah, I'd just say there's a level of convenience. How convenient that one of the packages had, the ice skates, or how convenient, that porta potty thing washed 4 years later. But it's a story. It could have been 8 years later, it could have been 2 years later, it could have been never. But I mean, that's just part of the story, and I could deal with that. But with that said, like I said, it's always been one of my favorite Tom Hanks films. I think it's a very solid movie. And it definitely makes you pontificate and think of what would you do in that situation. And it's a nice tale of survival. And again, I think Tom Hanks did a very commendable job on it. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.